One of the subtler yet profoundly impactful aspects of biological aging occurs not in the DNA or the mitochondria directly, but at the cellular periphery, in the membranes that encapsulate and define each living cell. These membranes are dynamic structures composed primarily of lipids that regulate the flow of information, nutrients, and signals between the cell and its environment. Over time, these membranes often become more rigid, less responsive, and less efficient at conducting signals, a phenomenon often referred to as membrane aging. But rather than being a fixed outcome of passing years, this process can be much more accurately interpreted as the long-term result of essential fatty acid deficiency. In particular, insufficient dietary intake of omega-3 fatty acids like EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid, and DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, directly alters the lipid architecture of cell membranes, degrading their flexibility, functionality, and ultimately, the vitality of the tissues they comprise. The fluidity of cell membranes is not a trivial property. It is critical to how well cells function. Enzymes, ion channels, hormone receptors, and signaling proteins are all embedded within the lipid bilayer. For these components to operate optimally, the membrane must remain semi-fluid, not too rigid, and not too leaky. This delicate balance depends heavily on the presence of polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFAs, particularly DHA, which introduces kinks in the fatty acid chains that prevent tight packing of phospholipids. In the absence of adequate PUFAs, especially in favor of saturated fats or excessive omega-6 fatty acids, membranes become more rigid, disrupting receptor conformation and signal transduction. What follows is a cascade of dysfunction. Insulin receptors become less sensitive, neurotransmitter signaling is blunted, inflammatory cascades are amplified, and cellular responsiveness to environmental cues is dulled. This degradation in membrane quality is a major contributor to the physiological traits we associate with aging. Cognitive decline, immune dysregulation, increased cardiovascular risk, and metabolic sluggishness can all be traced back, in part, to impaired membrane fluidity and lipid composition. Neurons, for instance, are particularly rich in DHA, and when DHA is deficient, synaptic membranes become less plastic, neurotransmitter release is impaired, and neuroinflammation is more likely to take root. The result is not merely brain aging, but a gradual breakdown in the lipid infrastructure that supports cognition, a breakdown directly driven by nutritional scarcity rather than chronological inevitability. These changes are not confined to the nervous system. In the cardiovascular system, omega-3 deficiency alters the behavior of endothelial cells lining blood vessels, making them more prone to inflammation, clotting, and oxidative stress. In the immune system, cell membrane rigidity hampers antigen recognition and slows response time, while in the endocrine system, hormonal receptors embedded in stiffened membranes may respond sluggishly or inconsistently. These changes collectively masquerade as age-related degeneration, but in truth, they reflect an invisible famine of critical fatty acids. The modern Western diet, with its overwhelming ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fats, often exceeding 15 to 1, compared to the evolutionary norm of 1 to 1 to 4 to 1, has exacerbated this membrane problem dramatically. Processed seed oils, rich in linoleic acid, dominate many food environments, while sources of EPA and DHA, such as fatty fish, pastured eggs, or algae, are often lacking or consumed sporadically. Over decades, this imbalance distorts the lipid matrix of every membrane in the body. The result is a subtle but profound shift in cellular communication, one that mimics aging but is, in fact, nutritional in origin. The good news is that these processes are reversible to a significant extent. Increasing the intake of EPA and DHA through food or supplementation has been shown to restore membrane fluidity, reduce systemic inflammation, improve insulin sensitivity, and enhance neuronal plasticity, even in older adults. In one study, supplementation with DHA improved cognitive function and membrane fluidity in elderly individuals with mild cognitive impairment. In others, increased omega-3 intake reduced cardiovascular events and lowered markers of cellular inflammation. These effects are not miracles. They are biological responses to being adequately nourished. Reframing membrane aging as essential fatty acid deficiency aligns with a broader, more hopeful view of aging, that decline is not destiny, but often the consequence of chronic nutritional gaps left unaddressed. It also offers a roadmap for prevention and regeneration. Supporting membrane integrity is not just about adding omega-3s, it's about shifting the balance away from excess omega-6, minimizing trans fats, and restoring the natural lipid ratios the body evolved to rely on. Doing so doesn't just protect against future degeneration, it reactivates cellular responsiveness in the present. Ultimately, cell membranes are not passive victims of time, they are living interfaces whose quality reflects the nutritional input they receive. When those inputs are imbalanced or insufficient, membranes stiffen, communication falters, and the body's collective functionality fades. But when we supply the right fats in the right proportions, we give every cell the chance to remain supple, intelligent, and responsive, traits we often think of as youth. In this light, aging becomes not a breakdown, but a preventable form of biochemical malnutrition. And nourishment, not pharmacology, becomes our most powerful tool for vitality.